I think management-wise, you have to. I think the first thing about being a manager, you have to know your limits and what you're good at and what you're not good at. Competition matters more when you're allocating resources. So you need at some point that the information kind of is much more organic. We do ship a lot and we do have a very initiative-driven culture.
Hello, and welcome to Behind the Growth. This is an experimental podcast where amazing guests like today's guest share some of their tips and tricks behind great projects and startups, including some of the best failures and lessons that they learned from them. I'm João, and today we have Humberto as our guest. Humberto is a co-founder and CEO of Rose. I found out about you guys when you guys were still called Dash Dash, so really early on. And Ro is basically taking over Google Sheets and the good old Microsoft Excel into a new way of singing and using spreadsheets into a new level. Right, Humberto?
Yes. Thank you, João, for inviting me. That's exactly
No
it.
worries.
We
Awesome.
want to make spreadsheets cooler again, or even cooler.
So nice. How are you feeling today?
Good. It's a good day. It was raining yesterday. Today, I think that the sun is out again. It's not summer, but it's a pretty good temperature outside.
Are you at Rose fully remote? I know that you are basically based in Porto and Berlin, right?
Yes. So we are a remote company, but we also have an office like you're seeing, the Porto office. It's not very easy to see, but so we do have an office in Porto and Berlin, but we are a remote first company. So everything happens online. We do a lot of documentation, and mostly we get out of people's ways and people just build stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting because working remotely definitely has challenges, but also like huge advantages. And actually, documentation and building is one of them because it forces people to document and actually be more transparent. And talking about transparency, I know that you guys at Rose have been sharing a lot lately. I'd say probably like over the last year or so, you start building in public. Was it a growth hack? Was it already kind of a quick win because you already have everything documented? Why building in public at this moment?
A very good question. Well, I don't know exactly why. It's one of those things that all of a sudden you are doing and you like it. So I really like it. And this is why I do it. It helps me personally create a moment of last week is last week, next week is next week, and to try to look at what we did well and how cool are our weeks being. If there's nothing cool, it's like, okay, this week was a lame one. It's going to be a shorter thing or whatever. So I've written emails to groups of people for a long time, not like public newsletters, but just emails with news. And what I was noticing is that I was always behind schedule, right? I was supposed to send an email every month, but then I sent it once every 3 months, and then once every 6 months, and then sometimes I sent more, sometimes I sent less. And it occurred to me that it was a problem of scheduling. And so I said, no, let's actually do it once per week. So I started writing a personal email with updates about what's going on, like family and friends and stuff like that, including work, every Sunday night, right? And a big part of it was, it's a pretty comprehensive email. There's like fun stuff, there's like just a couple of pictures or whatever. And a big part of it was product, and people liked the product part. So I kind of like extracted that into posts for Rose. And so I started doing also weekly posts. And now I write a personal weekly update and company weekly update. They're very different in kind. And then it started kind of working. It also fits some traffic to the website, especially the types of audiences that interact with the post are very good. It's like founders, business managers, marketing managers, operations, like pretty senior people. And the audience is pretty good. It reaches between 2,000, 5,000 people each post, which is pretty good for this kind of effort. And so I like it. I was already doing it in a certain way. I had to improve it a little bit. And now it's also useful for the business. So this is why we do it.
Yeah, those are the best growth hacks. Are the ones that are fun and bring you some results, right? And do you feel those are also you are reaching a new audience with that kind of strategy, or it's still users from roles that are now more engaged with the brand? Do you feel that this is like more a retention side thing or more an acquisition and activation side?
It is mostly on the retention side, it seems. Like I would say 2/3 of the people are
Yeah,
audiences that already interact with us in one way or another. But they do like it. I get like a bunch of feedback. Again, I think every week, two direct messages addressing particular things that I'm of what I'm saying on that thing. Like really, like someone is thinking about it and has a question or concern for their company or whatever, or is interested in what we're doing. But
so
then
it's
there's like a
awesome.
third, which is new people. We see like even the coolest effect is like every week I get one or two people sending me messages and talking about some of them like these public posts that I wrote like 8 weeks ago or something like that. Like, I just
Yeah,
found out this blog post somewhere, and what do you think about this particular feature? Or I look at a lot of startups who are building products that have some component close to ours, either it's charts or tables or no code flavor or something like that.
yeah,
And I'm like, I found this thing, it's so cool. Like, how should I do it? Should I also do this public building? Should I do it like that? Yeah. So
yeah.
it helps a little bit with new people. Mostly, I think it's just a way of projecting confidence and stability onto our usership, which is very important. Like a product like spreadsheets, what you don't want to understand is like, I don't know if those guys are, what the fuck is going on? Like you need to
Exactly.
know that
Yeah,
this is a
it's
business
my
that will
data. Yeah,
survive. Yeah, made it
it's my data
secure.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the discussions that I've been following lately on the building public community is this concern of it was cool over like the last 10 years. There was a small community of people building in public, mostly like indie hackers and all that. But then I don't know if it's the no code movement or alongside with AI and all that, but uh, like last month or so, I started some of those guys that like Levels.io and others indie hackers that have been building in public for a long time start talking about I don't want to build in public because my other competitors are trying to copy me and learning from my lessons and all that. Um, are you afraid of that, or it's just part of the game?
Sometimes I get a bit afraid of that. I get a bit paranoid. Like we're talking about something. Like we're going to release a very big AI. I think we'll talk about it later, but we're going to release a very big AI thing in the next couple of weeks. Like different from anything else which you see out there. And of course, like I will talk about it, and in between the feature and what we're doing, there's going to be a little bit of context that's going to help someone copy the feature. But I think what we stand to gain is far more than that. So in general, no, I don't. I'm not overly concerned. Like this is mostly a state. Either you have a propensity to create new innovations and crazy bets and growth hacking,
Yeah,
or you don't like it.
yeah,
And if you do, you will probably move around a niche that is not directly what we're doing right now. Like I think competition matters more when you're allocating resources at the millions of users and like at larger scales, then you can actually kill a competitor. Right now, like all of the people in our industry are still pretty small, and there's really no way to kill anything besides our own idiocy. Like if we die, it's because we didn't do a good job, or we ran out of money or something like that. It's not because our competitors killed us or something. At this stage, it doesn't. It's not. I don't think
it's not a concern.
it's a
Yeah, you are still
meaningful
fighting
fact.
the big ones, and you are still fighting the big ones. So it's not
Yeah, we're still fighting. We have some differentiators like a spreadsheet, and then we have three key things, and one of them is importing data, and we want to be the fastest at importing data. Okay. And then a second is like having a lot of components for analysis, like pivot tables and charts and AI elements and stuff like that. And then the other one is sharing. Like, and our job is to make those better. It's not because someone else is doing something. It's just that has to make sense for the user. More so it makes sense for hundreds and thousands of users, but it doesn't make sense for millions of users yet. So we still have to go back and do it again.
Yeah, so I remember a few weeks ago, probably last month or last couple of months, that you guys were like shipping new features like crazy. It was like one new feature each week or so, or it's 3 days, I don't know. And it was a really interesting thing to see and try to understand how important it is to ship things fast, or as the correct said, break things. And or is it more important to ship the right things? And does size matter in that sense of, is my user base big enough so I can ship fast and learn things? Or how do you do on a product level those kind of experiments to see if those features will actually stick or not?
Okay, it's a lot of questions, and
Yeah, I
to be
know.
honest, there's no definite answer. I don't know. Like we're not, I'm not that good to answer that. Maybe some people in the team are, but there's a few aspects to what you said. I think shipping fast is more important than having a concrete notion of what you want to ship, because even if you are correct, there's going to be an opportunity after that, and an opportunity after that, and you need speed for this to really count. Even if you don't release it very often, like Apple only releases stuff like once or twice a year, right? Like, but they for sure must be developing fast, because when they ship
Yeah.
a new operating system and people, and new devices and all of this stuff, like it's a lot of effort. So they must be really moving fast. I think moving fast internally makes sense, and iterating fast as well, like being able to pinpoint the first experiment and then more and more and more. And I think what fit into that is independence of the teams, right? Like growth teams which can do growth hacking and crazy things. And I think that's important, and how the information flows inside the company, right? If you have too much of a waterfall, like if product has to create a statement and then design has to approve the statement and then it goes to engineers and then it goes back to, if you have too much of that, then you're going to move slow. So you need at some point that the information kind of is much more organic. That sometimes actually designers take the lead, sometimes engineers go ahead of design. The process has to be far more organic than a fixed process. And then
Yeah.
how we measured those things to complete is we release the features, and then we have some objective metrics, and after a while we go back and we see if we did it. For example, we want that the percentage of completion of data imports goes up from 30% to 60%, for example. Right? It's a concrete metric, right? And we know that doing the feature is not the objective. The objective is that more people are successful in importing data, right? And so we develop features for a particular objective. That one has a very clear goal. Other things have less clear goals. Like with AI experiments, we just wanted to ship and try it out. And then once we started getting the hang of it, then we started evolving that thing.
Yeah, and that's interesting because, as you said, yeah, the goal is always to impact your metric that matters, or a specific objective, not the feature by itself. And what were like the most impactful experiments that you guys did over the last years? It can be on the marketing side or it can be on the product side, but can you name a few that I know that you run a few on the marketing side particularly? I know more about them than on the product side, to be honest. But what were the ones that produced better results?
Yeah, better results for sure. I can think of three things. One of them has been embeds. Embeds is a breakout feature that keeps getting more and more usage at rows. Like it's really a lot, because people there's a lot of tools. It's an explosion of software right now, and you have tools like Notion and Miro and Confluence, which are really aggregators of content. And you don't have charts natively on those applications and tables and data, right? And so people just create these tables and then they put an embed, and the embeds are live updated, and it works super well. People love it, and it was a growth hacking experiment, to be honest. I just picked up the regular spreadsheet and cut it down and found a way of making it work. Like in a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, I started working, and then we invested more time and more money into it, and then it's getting better, and now it feeds a considerable audience into our system. So, and that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and do you feel that? I got this feeling sometimes that growth hacks that are mostly related to product produce more scalable results than the ones that are based on marketing. In the sense that obviously some of them are still marketing related, because in the embeds you have like the built with roles saying, and if people share it outside, others will see it. So it's still it's still marketing, it's growth still, but like the billboards or like some PR stunts and all that, are those mostly like time constrained and have results in like 3 weeks, and then all the effort is gone and results are dead?
Yes. Well, generally, marketing campaigns are more of that nature, right? You're trying to find a message, and very rarely I think, do you create a message that is long lasting, like a campaign about Michael Jordan for shoes or something like that, right? Like you don't hit a repeatable process that you can run for a long time with marketing, at least not online, because you don't have a brand. Like Apple has a brand, they have a construct for every year. People are salivating to understand what they're going to release, and there's like a pure machine. Everything else, including large brands like Google and Samsung, they have to spend money to get a thing. They have to build the whole fair from scratch every year. They have to set up the tent, get people breathing fire and stuff like that. I know with startups is the same, I guess. I think with product and growth experiments, this is where you get, once it that to work, they work, and now they're working, and so this is why I think it pays off to invest a bunch into product. So that's one of the things, and that's the other one was OpenAI, which quickly became a really a tentpole integration into roles, and that people use it for a lot. Like the other day, I was helping this professor, this researcher at the University of Michigan, who had a list of reviews for electric vehicle chargers, right, stations. Like, I didn't like the plug was broken, it didn't charge my Tesla, whatever, like just 30 something thousand, I think, something of that nature. And they wanted from that review to extract what was the topic of the review, what was the sentiment, positive or negative, and then a very short summary of like 4 or 6 words. And we did it in rows in like 20 minutes, and it looks like it's amazing, the kind of stuff.
It's magic. Yeah.
So OpenAI has obviously been very good, and now we're building this new AI product for those. We're going to have many news over the next 6 months for that. And finally, you mentioned the billboards. That was more of a crazy thing which we did, which works super well, and we'll keep doing. We have more ideas.
More billboards. You are printing more billboards.
Not the billboard, but other things, and some work and some don't. You see I do a collection of memes. So I look for memes online, and then I contact the owners and I buy signed prints of the memes. And so I tried creating rose versions of the memes. And it's not really getting a lot of attention. It's getting like maybe 10 or 20 reactions, something like that. It's not worth it. I still like to do it personally.
It's still fun.
It's still fun for me, but that one clearly isn't working. But the billboards work super well, well.
You get a ton of PR from that, and probably a bunch of news as well. And it's one fun thing is that I feel that at heart you are still indie hackers. You are still. I'm not sure if part of your hiring processes is hiring indie hackers and people that are builders by nature, but hearing you talking and knowing the product and all that feels like one of the key differentiators at roles is that by nature you are still indie hackers, that you are focused on building new things, and you said ship fast. How do you keep that energy after like raising a ton of money or a few dozen million in the last round? So you are Series B, right?
B. Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah.
after all that, how
I
do you
understand
keep
your
that
question.
that going?
Yeah. Well, it is partially true. Okay. And I have to introduce a little bit of context. So we do ship a lot, and we do have a very initiative-driven culture, right? Like many of the closed projects are people that decide to do them because they will them to exist and they just want. For example, one of them is AI. Like my colleague, this guy Enrique, over Christmas played a little bit with it, and we were playing with the prompts in rows. I said, like, let's just do it, and then he, an engineer, created the basic version. Just it wasn't planned. There was nothing. So there's certainly that gene, and but even on other teams that are less revolutionary, like growth, like a backend engineer, also out of nowhere, uh, decided to create a new parallel live computation algorithm that improved our speed like 10x on certain operations, right? So uh, you have to, you really have to permeate these things and make people understand that you will like those things and you're not going to clamp down, right? I think that this is one. But then not everyone and not all of the time this organization adheres to new pop ideas, and we've had examples of that. Like sometimes the team is too busy with certain technical aspects and they reject particular things, and you have to also understand that you have a particular team of a certain size, and you have to do that. Also, our team is shifted towards older people than typical spreadsheets, right? Than typical startups. We're not a startup. We're a bunch of people sub 30. Like I would say we are 30 to 40s and probably 35s to 45s more. And so there's a big component of normalcy, just professionals doing their job. Maybe it feels like magic from the outside, like watching basketball players play, but on the inside, there's a lot of passing the ball. There's a lot of conversation about how to do things, etc. It is not a chaotic, creative environment.
Yeah.
It's rather professionals in their work, and then a lot of people have this incentive and this intuition and initiative to do crazier things, and they do it.
Yeah, but that's part of the growth act. Yeah, spirit, I would say, is having this mentality of we have a roadmap, but we can sometimes deviate from the roadmap if we see that an opportunity can bring good results or simply can fail, but it seems to be able to work. And that's super important, is having this. And it's tricky in product teams, particularly, to have this kind of mindset of, okay, we have the roadmap, it's okay, but sometimes opportunities arise and we can deviate from that. What about failures? So what kind of experiments, tests, projects that failed?
Most things we failed many times completely, like 100% failures. And also most of the products have a big degree of failure in them, which we then have to cover or fix. I think the biggest ones were in the beginning when we were less trained in how to build spreadsheets, and we chose a particular architecture that is very dependent on the back end, and we should have done a lot more UX work and a lot more UX studies in the beginning before we started building certain components, etc. And I don't know if we would have understood the problems. Maybe even if we had just at the time, we would not have understood it because we weren't trained for that. But certainly if I went back and if I could certain aspects build it in a different way, we would. And we'd have saved millions of euros and a lot of time and a lot of frustration. So I would say we made all of the mistakes plus one in building the product. And I was the source of at least half of these mistakes, big mistakes. Really, I'm not saying this out of humility, just a fact.
Yeah, but that's it's
that's
I think
ideas.
That it's part of the CEO job as well.
Yeah, I thought of this spreadsheet that has the integrations data and the better sharing and this layout, And I think these ideas are being proved right. But then specifically how I had thought about them, most of them were wrong. Specific, for example, one example, how the grid scrolls, like in Google Sheets and in Excel, they have put it on and off. They have changed. There is this tendency that cells scroll one by one, rows scroll by one, right? A
Uh-huh.
full row, and columns as well. Like either you see a column or you don't see a column, right? And this is a mistake. In a world of multimedia where you have charts, etc., scrolling should work pixel by pixel. And also mobile devices, the control over rows is much less because you have a finger, and you have inertial scrolling and all of these things, which make it stupid to do it row by row and instead of pixel. And because we invested in these wrong things, then undoing them was very, very painful, like really painful.
Yeah,
And so
I can
a bunch of these
imagine.
mistakes, also some of the integrations which we built in the beginning, they were too technical, and rather we should have focused on more marketing, more business-like, simple integrations. That is also something which we've learned. And then the brand. This was one of the main failures, but that also had multiple problems as we were building. Like we actually started as Equals Magic. This was the first name, even before we
No,
exited the company, because we wanted to be equals. But then
I know.
Equals had a bunch of trademark problems, which we didn't want to get involved with. So we actually went with dash dash. That's supposed to be the equal sign, right?
Yeah,
Of a formula. But then people didn't understand it, etc., and it was too long. And so it's like, okay, then we're gonna go to rows, and then we built rows, and then rows we did it well.
yeah, absolutely. I think you guys nailed that part definitely. And it's funny you were mentioning how you started that, and you started as a no code, low code way of doing spreadsheets, and without all the mess of like Visual Basic on Excel and macros and all that, and this easiness of building in the no code era where everyone was talking about cloud systems and no code solutions. And now everyone is talking AI. And as I mentioned, you did some experiments with OpenAI. How does this kind of shift or trends impact your roadmap on the way you try to activate and acquire new users?
It's very good point. Um, well, it affects on two levels. One of them is you have excitement, and sometimes you have excitement and you know about these topics. For example, I knew a lot about hacking spreadsheets. I've been doing spreadsheets for 20 something years. I feel like I know my way around the document. And so, and the limitation that I had were, bringing more powerful components, and then VBA was a mess. And then you try to load a VBA spreadsheet inside an Excel. It works sometimes, depends on the permissions, depends on the Excel. It's a mess. So we knew what we wanted to do. And then when the no code explosion happened after we were already there, we thought that this is it, right? Like now it's a big thing. So we went after this new trend, and we captured some things correctly, some things incorrectly. We tried to build too much apps inside spreadsheets, and it doesn't scale super well. But some stuff works well, like having a fixed interface that people can share and that is interactive. This works well, and also breaking components inside cells. This also works pretty well. And so there's these opportunities, and if you are ready, if your product is ready, then you can surf the wave. Otherwise, it's not worth it. Just keep paddling until there's a new wave and you're more ready, right? We weren't super ready on the no-code one. I think we are super ready to take on the AI wave. Super ready. I think this is the right moment for us.
Yeah, that's
So
great. I'm eager to try it. Now that you are talking about it, definitely eager to try it because, yeah, spreadsheets is always a mess. Even when you manage a company, it's always part of your day to day, and I think you are nailing it. On a more personal level, leading teams and leading companies is challenging. It's fun, but it's challenging, and it's part of the CEO job, as I was talking, to take the risk and lead sometimes. So sometimes that lead to failures. What kind of like productivity or personal growth hacks or tips have you tried and had most impact on both the management side, but also on a more personal level, like mental health, physical health? What are your
Very
secrets?
good question again. Oh, very good question again. I think management wise, you have to. I think the first thing about being a manager, you have to know your limits and what you're good at and what you're not good at. You have to know. Like if you don't know that thing, you're gonna suffer way too much for the enjoyment that you're gonna get. So I know that I can excite people around the feature, etc. I know that I suck at following a particular feature point by point and doing ceremonies and Scrum or whatever. Like that's not my thing. And I'm not saying that it's unimportant or less important than what I'm doing. I just say that it's not me. I am a different kind of person. I can also individually motivate people with certain particular aspects. There's certain people, certain traits that I can recognize and help, and there are others that I cannot. And we have people inside who can help with the different traits, right? And I think recognizing that and finding people who can help all of the different kinds of talent that you have inside is super, super important. And for that, I also got not a mentor. What do you call that?
A coach? Sorry, coach.
I got a coach at some point. Very, very expensive coach that our investors suggested, but it was amazing. We only did a couple of sessions, but I really liked it. It helps essentially discover what you're doing, and then it helps you understand that you are not supposed to be perfect, and it's okay. I have the right to make some mistake as long as I'm honest about them and I don't do them on purpose or out of being capricious or something. It's fine. And finally, then you learn a few things about how you want to build a company, and this is important. It takes a while for it to really know, but until now we know that we have certain types of attributes of people. One of them is like smiling by default, which is a kind of optimism. We just, the way we are built, we don't have a big HR team or anything. You have to have people who are ready to bring a smile to work every day, even when you're having a discussion and you disagree. Like, this is just work, just work. Getting a perspective, no drama, is very important. And some people just are built for larger organizations where you actually go into the drama and create processes around the drama and like, okay, this happened once, might happen again. Let's create a process that everyone is working well. Again, it works better for larger companies. It's not us. It's really not us. And so you learn these kind of things and you put into place. Personally, I just encode what works best. Like, I like working a lot during the week, and I stay up late until I finish what I have to do. Sometimes on Fridays until midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., whatever, until it works. But then I do not work on weekends. Zero. Like, I don't. Well, maybe that's an exception.
Sunday nights, right? But writing emails at Sunday nights.
No, I write the personal emails on the night. The business part I already worked on Friday afternoon. That's why.
That's a trick.
Then I obviously inject it into my personal email, but it's personal writing. It's not. It's just copy pasting some bits, right? And for example, turning off. I don't have the company email on the phone. People who want to talk to me, they call or they send me a message, or they book a meeting with me. And this works well. And then doing lots of sports, the usual stuff. I built a mini gym at home, got a treadmill, and now I'm
COVID time, or it was already before COVID or post COVID?
This was a pre-COVID idea.
Okay.
Pre-COVID. But I executed it just as we were getting to COVID, and it's the best thing.
Perfect timing. Exactly.
Perfect health decision. I lost like 13 kilograms in 6 months without cutting anything. I still eat fried everything and ice cream and shit. But I just got on that. I learned about exactly where my balance is.
Nice. Yeah, I can relate, especially the coaching side. If you find the right coach, and I've also found one in like a burnout phase of my professional life, and it helped me a lot. it's incredible. I was just talking with someone for 1 hour each week or each 2 weeks, a random person that you met sometime about you and your problems and your challenges. It's amazing that outside perspective, and having that is I would 100% agree that that can bring a huge impact. And what about one that failed? The gym worked, so that's one that doesn't count.
Well, it
Anything
worked,
like
uh,
journaling or other stuff that you tried and might not have worked as you thought because it wasn't right for you?
well, we tried many things which did not work. For example, we tried having a chief of staff at some point, and it did not work. It was premature, and we didn't really know how to use that position. Then we went back, and this has happened many times. Like we've prematurely tried to find particular resources that we didn't really know how to use, and that created friction within ourselves and with the other people, and yeah. So we failed a bunch. We did all the mistakes which you do. I think through it all, what makes us special, I think, is that we look very positively at all of this. So we're not afraid. We're really not afraid. I think both me and my co-founder and the people who are here in general, we're very little fear about the future because we know that this is hard and this is our job. To not be fearful in this particular spreadsheet. If we were building, COVID vaccines, maybe we would be fearful and hyper careful. But this is not the case. We have to move fast and become the best. We cannot. If you're afraid of software or shipping things when you're building a spreadsheet, you're not going to go very far. I think you have to be fearless. I think where we fail more personally, more where did I fail more? At the beginning also, we went a few months without a salary, both me and my co-founder. I think we said we'll get a salary as soon as we ship the first alpha something, right? Which took maybe 10 months since we started the company, or like 6 months since we got funding, something like that. And then I was also expecting, we were also expecting our first daughter, my wife and me, and a lot of work, a lot of pressure, lots of concerns, and so the health factor there clearly failed. And I got the shingles, which is called the zona in Portuguese. It's a reactivation of varicella,
Exactly.
of the varicella virus,
Chicken.
and it's
Yeah, I'd say it in
maybe
English.
chicken pox. I don't know.
Yeah, actually, I think it's chicken pox. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I reacted. I got it on the head and the eye, and it's very very painful, very painful
Yeah.
thing for like 5
Yeah.
weeks.
You decided to go all in, and it was challenging.
Yeah, and you get that when we have a loss in immunity, and I was just too concerned over whatever. I don't really even remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so for sure you sometimes do these mistakes, and I hope I never get it again.
Yeah, so and last one, more like a real perspective. How do you navigate? Because this is like, even with Web3 and all that, this is sense, and it kind of wraps up some of the topics that we talked today. Is the sense of bringing marketing and product together and building like the community of users and building around your community and using this community to help you grow your product, both on feedback loop for the product managers and designers, but also for the marketing team to build upon it. How do you navigate these oceans of community of users and the VCs, and where the money is flowing sometimes is not where the users want to go? How challenging is it to have the VCs asking you to build? I know probably at this time it fits, so users want AI, VCs want AI, but did sometimes happen that VCs wanted, I don't know, blockchain, and users wanted like integration with Google Analytics for something like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. In my opinion, maybe it's going to be a bit controversial and very arrogant, but I feel like most of the times, neither the users nor the VC will ask you anything concrete. They're just excited in general about AI. and they're excited in general about crypto or something like that. They don't really have a particular vision about how that goes, but this is the job of the company. And for example, I can tell that in OpenAI, most people are building these builders that you just ask a question, like add a chart, and then it adds a chart or whatever. Our vision for AI is different. It's kind of like a smart analyst that looks at your data and tells you what's going on, rather than helping you build components. It also builds them, but it's more about intelligence. It's someone that's near you to tell you what you should be looking at in the data, right? And this is different. Like neither investors nor users asked us for that. Like we had to play around with it until we tripped on this idea and we got convinced about it, and we started pulling this thread and like, it's a pretty interesting thread, you know. And this is how we do it, I guess. You have to be super attentive and super intuitive and dog feed the product, blah 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 blah. But generally, like investors have never, they have access to the same stuff, but you can always shift the conversation left and right if you want to. I think it's really the management team. I think the community is important for certain aspects of the building, or the product which you're building. Like we have a community of spreadsheets, which is it's existing and it's still growing, but it's not exploded yet. But and if we want it to explode, then we have to listen to the users, because the community, it's there. It's not ours. Like we cannot try to create a community of spreadsheets and say it's fully ours and we run everything. We have to build tools for them to be successful, right? Then for it to be an actual platform. And the Bill Gates, the old famous definition of Bill Gates is like, you have a platform when the value which other people take from something is bigger than the value you take from something, right? So in many regards, many of these so-called platforms and communities are not platforms at all, because the biggest value goes to the gatekeeper.
And not to the community. Yeah, and it's actually interesting that we can wrap up this with you mentioning Bill Gates, the guy that helped build your biggest competitor, probably. So it's a fun one.
Yeah.
Humberto, it was great having you.
Well, a fun thing is we actually once did a demo to Bill Gates himself.
Really?
Yes. We created a video of them to be shown to Bill Gates, but yes. Rose,
you got feedback from there, or term sheets from that?
It wasn't a term sheet. Well, he's not working at Microsoft any longer, but it was something like, it's kind of cool. It was a very polite reaction.
Nice. That's amazing. That's a super cool story to do. Humberto, thank you a lot for your time. See you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you for the invite.